Hello, hello. Just wanted to hop on here and tell the story. Many of you guys have been asking, how did we acquire this medicinal mushroom, what we have dubbed the Mega Reishi. So I'm going to go into that story. At the end of this short little session, you're going to learn its Latin name, what the actual weight or size this would have been, fresh, what it weighs now, as well as another big question I often get, is this a wild medicinal mushroom? I'll let you in on that little secret, if it is or if it isn't, as well as the whole story of how I came to acquire this medicinal mushroom, story of it, where it comes from, and how it made it here. So let's dive into it. This is one of the largest medicinal mushrooms in the world, largest specimens. It is the Ganoderma Lucidum, the reishi, the famed reishi of the Orient, which as a mushroom grows on every continent in the world except for Antarctica. We just happen to have one of the biggest I have literally ever seen, definitely the biggest I've ever held. The first I'd ever seen of this size was Ron Teagarden from Dragon Herbs. We carry many of his products. He had posted a picture of one that he had acquired, and again, like two people holding it up, just absolutely massive. And just to give you perspective, oftentimes reishis can be about this size, right? So just to compare, you can kind of see the difference there. This one is massive. So here's a black reishi. Here's another red reishi. They do come in all kinds of shapes, colors, sizes, literally. Now that term, Ganoderma, so that is the Latin name, Ganoderma Lucidum. Ganoderma means shiny skin, right? Gano meaning skin, Gano meaning shiny, and derma meaning skin. So literally shiny skin. And you can see on these ones, it does. It looks like it's been shellacked, right? So we often get that question, has this been coated? Has it been shellacked? And the answer is no. In fact, this is how it naturally grows. If you were to find this in the forest growing wild, it would have that shiny varnished conch is another name for it, like varnished or lacquered-like appearance. And that is natural. That's one of the kind of amazing wonders of reishi, just from its pure physical beauty. Now it is what we call a polypore. So unlike a lot of button mushrooms, like gills, they have those gills underneath. This is what we call the polypore. So the underneath, the exact same as under here, is thousands of tiny little pores instead of gills. Now it is a mushroom that does not grow from the ground, but grows off of trees. And the texture of it is tough, it's strong, it's woody, and once dried, it is hard. So if I were to try and cut this up, if I wanted to make tea, I would literally have to have a bandsaw would be the easiest. And when you harvest it fresh, it does have a bit more softness to it, and that's the ideal time to be able to cut it up, prepare it for tea. Unless, of course, like this, you're gonna leave it as this type of specimen. Now, I'm not sure how old this is, but it is quite old. The interesting thing about these reishis is that they grow to whatever size they're going to grow in 1 year. So there are a lot of tree mushrooms, these types of polypores, that are perennials. Like every year they grow a little bit more, and they grow each year throughout the season. There's a relative that we have, so often people say, can you find reishi here in Alberta? And the answer is no. But you can find a very close relative. So like I mentioned, this one is called Ganoderma lucidum. There's another one called Ganoderma applanatum. It's also known as the artist conch. That you can absolutely find here in Alberta, but the lucidum you cannot. So let's get into it here. How did I come to find this medicinal mushroom? So again, had only seen a picture of mushrooms even remotely this size. Ron Teagarden had posted, and it was one of those ones of like, if only, right? Oh, I'd love to have one of those, right? And so last year, about September 2018, one of my good friends, Yara Willard, he posted a picture on his Instagram of this particular reishi mushroom. He was out in Vancouver, and I saw the picture and I was like, oh my gosh, right, OMG, like this is incredible. Where did you find that? And my next question was, did you buy it? And so he direct messaged me back. He says, no, Malcolm, I didn't. It was an amazing sight to behold. Found this in Vancouver. He was in town hanging out in Chinatown, just checking out the stores like I like to do as well. Like Chinatown is like, especially in Vancouver, right? It's like so cool. They've got all kinds of really neat shops, neat herbs within those shops, and even just to kind of like window shop and browse and go in and check out all the different mushrooms and all the different herbs they have. So he was doing exactly that. And then out of the corner of his eye, in the back of the store at the top, was this particular reishi mushroom, right? So he's just like, oh, took a picture of it, posted it. He actually asked them how much it was, and they said it's, I think he was quoted like $4,000. And so for him, he's like, beautiful, but don't have that kind of money to spend on it. What would I do with it? So on and so forth. And my immediate response is like, dude, you gotta tell me, like, I'm gonna go there in December. You gotta tell me like where the shop is. I'm gonna go there and check this thing out. So last December, I was out in Vancouver for a conference, got the rental car, was at my conference, at the convention, and first break that I could, did a beeline straight for Chinatown, found this particular store along that stretch. This is east side, downtown Vancouver, inside Chinatown. Found that particular shop, and it took a while, right? I went in all of them. I was like, okay, is it this one? I'm looking around all the kind of the walls, like looking at the display areas. And so finally walk into this one, back corner, and there it is. And just like literally like heart pumping, just like, oh my gosh, like this thing has a presence, it has an energy. And there it finally was. And so I started chatting with the folks there. And I says, well, like, can I see it? Like, can you bring it down? Can I feel it? Can I touch it? And, how much is it? All this kinds of questions. And so we brought it down, and, I asked, I was like, well, how much is this? And they says, well, it's $100 a pound. And I was like, okay, how much does it weigh? And they says, well, it weighs about 30 pounds. And so I was like, did the math. I was like, okay, well, that's already even better than always what I was thinking. But it's still up there. It's still maybe more than I want to spend. And so they brought it down, and instantly I felt it, and I was like, oh, this is not 100 pounds, right? Like this is way lighter than that. So we actually got them to weigh it. It wasn't even 30 pounds. It ended up being less than 12 pounds. So this thing dried weighs about 12 pounds, which is, considerable. It's massive, massive reishi. And so anyways, long story short, I did a little bit more kind of negotiating with them. I started to ask them about its history as well. I says, well, what do you know about this? And they said, we don't really know anything. It's been here since the shop opened, literally sitting in the back corner of the Chinese herb shop for who knows how many decades, literally just collecting dust. So I was able to negotiate a pretty good deal, because I knew for sure I wanted it. And honestly, one of the most challenging things was actually bringing it home. And because I had my rental car, had to drive it back to the airport and get this on an airplane. I was like, well, how's this gonna work? So they helped me out. I mean, of course, it doesn't come in a box, so we had to cut open some boxes, tape the whole contraption together, get the reishi mushroom in there, because even though it's fairly sturdy, like it is delicate, and I wasn't about to just carry on the airplane. That wasn't going to work, so I knew I had to check it, had to package it properly. So we rigged up this cardboard box, and one of the most challenging things was actually getting it in the rental car, because it's so big. I mean, just going across here, several feet across, several feet high. Again, weighing about 12 pounds, got it in there, got it to the airport, and then of course security's like, oh, what's this? We need to look. You're carrying mushrooms, right? And so we open it up. Okay, it's all good. Slide it back in, and away it goes onto the airplane. And so this was back last December, and I wanted to keep it a secret. We were still in our old location. I didn't want to bring it out just yet to kind of reveal it, because I knew its place was going to live here in the new location, and wanted to wait until that. So I had it kind of downstairs in my basement, just kind of like covered by a sheet, and did the grand unveiling at our last year's staff Christmas party. Brought it up, still covered by the sheet. Told everyone, oh, I got this special thing. This is going to be the crowning piece in the new Light Cellar, and just it was one of those moments, right? Just the grand unveiling, just like pulled away the sheet, and there was an audible like, just like. One of those things like the goosebump index, like, right? And everyone was just, wow. And one of the staff whose family, they're very into kind of crystals and energy and all this stuff. He says, I've been around, I've seen a lot of crystals, but nothing compares to the energy of this. And it's true, it does have a potency, it does have an energy to it. So super excited that it's found its home here for you guys to enjoy, and just wanted to share that story with you. And thank you to Yarrow for giving me that little tip off on where to find it, because literally have never ever seen anything this big. Now, a couple of questions we get is this wild, right? That's the first, like, wow, is that a wild mushroom? And again, since I don't know how it was grown, definitely comes from China, been sitting in that Chinese herb shop for years, I can tell you just from the look of it that it is not wild. And I don't think that makes it any less special. And the reason that this, I can tell that it's not wild, is because of the formation. So a lot of mushrooms, when they grow off the trees, they're growing off out the side. So you'll only have a section, be cut off about there, because it's growing off the trunk of the tree. Where this is a complete circle, so its growing medium was underneath, as they are when they're cultivated, and when they grow up underneath, they can often grow into these nice, beautiful circular patterns. So that was definitely one big tip-off as well. Now, the weight of this, so even though it weighs 12 pounds dry, one of our staff, Gestalt, worked with us in repack for years. He did the math on that because he knew the calculation, the conversion, the weight loss of water to dry. So he guesstimates that this would have weighed well over 100 pounds fresh. Literally, it would have taken 2 people to lift this thing, and then as it dried to about 10% its weight. So 12 pounds it is dry, would have been well over 100 pounds fresh. Yeah, and just so we're clear, everyone that knows, so this mushroom, this is actually the fruit of the organism, just like the apple on the tree. So the actual organism is the mycelium, that thread-like substance that would have lived, in the soil, and in this case, in the tree, as it begins to kind of break it down. And then every year it puts out the fruit, which is this mushroom, just like an apple tree puts out an apple. And underneath on that spore pad, remember I talked about the polypores, right? That's where it releases its seed, or spores as it's called in the world of the mushrooms. So then after one season, then this begins to die back. It begins to get broken down itself. And it's just part of that reproductive cycle of the fungi. Unlike some other mushrooms, like the Ganoderma applanatum that I talked about, the artist conch. It's perennial. It would stay on the tree for a long time. So there we go. There's the story of what we're now calling the mega reishi. Highly encourage you to come check this out. Take a selfie, take a picture. It's quite a rare sight. There are very few of these mushrooms this size in the world, and we're honored to have it here. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that little story, that little tale, and yeah, look forward to seeing you in the shop. And let me know if you got any other questions. Just post them down below.